Welcome, Sip&Talkers. Greetings to you wherever you are in the world, whatever time zone you are joining us from.
Welcome back. We have a really fascinating deep dive for you today. Lots of moving parts.
We certainly do. You know, we've gotten a bunch of questions from listeners, especially people watching what's happening in East Asia, asking about this. This policy China keeps pushing, they call it huito.
The benefit policy, yeah.
Right. They're always talking about giving Taiwan benefits and my favorite phrase, same treatment. I swear, when I first read same treatment, I thought they were talking about, like, a Costco membership upgrade.
Huh. A Costco membership. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe it comes with a free sample of their United Front formula or something.
Exactly, because it leads to the big question everyone asks. Hey, China can't stand the ruling party in Taiwan, the DPP, so why not just, sanction the whole island into oblivion?
And that's such a crucial question because the answer tells you everything about Beijing's strategy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the simple reasons for not doing that are, well, they're pretty straightforward.
It's all about avoiding what you'd call, I guess, self-inflicted pain.
Totally. First off, if you just launch these devastating economy-wide sanctions, you're going to anger the entire Taiwanese public. It stops being about politics and becomes a personal attack on everyone.
You'd alienate everybody, even the people who might have been on the fence.
You'd create so much anti-China sentiment. It would probably just push more people toward wanting independence, which is the exact opposite of what they want. It's a huge own goal.
And the second reason is, well, it's about the money, isn't it? Their own supply chain would get hammered.
Immensely. We're going to get way deeper into this later, but Taiwan isn't just some minor trading partner. It's deeply, deeply integrated into their high-tech sector. So full sanctions it'd be like punching yourself in the face.
So instead of that, they do this weird dance. They do localized strikes, selective targeting, and then they do these things that are just almost laughable, like issuing global arrest warrants for Taiwanese social media influencers.
Oh, man, that one. It's just so bizarre. And critics, they jump on that immediately.
Yeah, of course they do.
And they make a really good point. If Taiwan is really part of your country, why do you need international help to catch your own people? The whole thing just screams that you don't actually have control.
It's this weird mix of pressure and incentives and global posturing. And that whole calculation, that's what leads us to the bigger topic here, right? The anti-U.S. alliance.
Exactly. It's the same kind of logic playing out on a global scale. Everyone kind of knows the lineup by now. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea.
The usual suspects.
Yeah. And in, international relations textbooks, they're called revisionist powers.
Which is just a fancy way of saying what exactly?
It just means they want to change the rules of the game. They don't want to play by the playbook the U.S. and its allies set up after the Cold War. They think the system is rigged against them, and they want to, revise it.
Rewrite the whole thing.
Pretty much. And one of the most dramatic players in this club, especially the Western Hemisphere, is Venezuela.
Right. And China and Venezuela are super close. Critics have some pretty harsh names for that partnership.
They do. Some call it a crime alliance, and that's obviously a very loaded term. But it stems from these connections, these accusations.
Let's not suggest too much. Maybe it's all just a coincidence.
Maybe. But the accusations against the Venezuelan government are really intense. The U.S. has accused them of everything from narco-terrorism to corruption, economic collapse, you name it.
So when China backs them, it's not just about friendship. It's a strategic move on the global chessboard.
It's pure geopolitical logic. It's about finding allies who also feel boxed in by the U.S. And that brings up the really big question, I think.
Why are so many of these anti-U.S. countries authoritarian states?
Exactly. That pattern isn't a coincidence. It's ideological. From their point of view, the values the U.S. pushes, like free speech, democracy, a free press, are incredibly dangerous.
They're a threat to their power. You could almost think of the U.S. as like an ideological disruptor.
That's a great way to put it. Because as soon as those ideas, freedom, choice, elections start to filter into their societies, the pressure on the ruling party just skyrockets.
Right. So what do? You create an external enemy.
It's the classic move. It does so much for you. It distracts from problems at home, like a bad economy. It helps you build up nationalism. And, it gives you a great excuse to team up with other countries who are also, frankly, afraid of democracy.
And the ultimate goal for this whole group is what they call a multipolar world.
Which sounds pretty diplomatic, but it just means a world where the U.S. isn't the only superpower calling the shots. A world where they can carve out their own spheres of influence.
You're being very diplomatic. I mean, it's wild to think about what they talk about when they get together. So, how many people did you arrest today? Any new domestic enemies we can play up?
Maybe they're swapping tips. Haha, got this new trick for getting people to stop asking why the economy is terrible.
Maybe there are workshops on how to get around sanctions, how to look good on the world stage while you're tightening the screws at home.
Okay. We've had our fun.
But seriously, what do these regimes fear most? It's not the U.S. military, not really. It's not sanctions.
It's the moment their own people realize
that they can have a choice.
All right, you're getting too into it. Let's get into our main topic for today. Beijing's political trap, Taiwan, anti-U.S. allies, and the AI age.
Let's do it. We're going to start by peeling back the layers on that He-Tao policy.
Time to jump in. Let's talk about why critics say those benefits aren't a gift, they're a trap.
All right, so let's kick this off by really breaking down this whole He-Tao policy. On paper, when you read Beijing's official announcements, it sounds like a pretty sweet deal. They talk about the 31 measures, the 26 measures, now the 21 measures.
Yeah, a whole series of them. And they present it as this big economic gift basket for Taiwan.
But that's the whole issue, isn't it? The gap between what it says on the box and what's actually inside. The framework itself sounds generous. They're offering incentives, making things more convenient, and using that phrase again, same treatment.
So what does that actually mean? It's really broken down into two main categories. The first is aimed at the big guys, economic and industry.
Okay, so this is about luring in the corporations.
Exactly. We're talking about huge tax breaks, like dropping the corporate tax rate to 15% for high-tech companies. That's a massive incentive. But more than that, they're offering access.
Access to what?
Access to government contracts, big infrastructure projects, things that are normally reserved for state-owned enterprises. They're basically inviting Taiwanese companies to plug directly into the mainland's state-run economic engine.
So they're not just offering a market, they're offering a seat at the table.
That's the pitch. Then there's the other side of it, the livelihood and life category. This is the soft power play.
Aimed at regular people.
Totally. This is about creating jobs, especially for young Taiwanese graduates. It's about making it easier to get into schools, offering housing subsidies, and a big part of it is creating this common city life circle.
Where's that?
It's this idea, especially for regions like Fujian, which is right across the strait, to make daily life so integrated and seamless for people on nearby islands like Kinmen and Matsu that the political border starts to feel, well, just pointless.
Wow. So if you just look at the economics, it sounds pretty appealing. But that's where we have to talk about the hidden political agenda.
You cannot separate the two. This whole thing has to be viewed through the lens of Beijing's long-term goal, which is, resolving the Taiwan issue.
These aren't just economic programs, they're strategic investments.
They are investments in political integration, 100%. The official goal, they state, is to promote cross-strait fusion development and the internalization of Taiwan. They want to weave the two economies together so tightly that pulling them apart would be economically devastating for Taiwan.
And to even get these benefits, you have to sort of accept the premise, right?
That's the entry fee.
Yeah.
You have to at least implicitly accept the one China principle, often through what they call the 9-2 consensus.
Which basically means you agree there's one China, even if you disagree on what that China is.
Right, but Beijing's interpretation is very clear. If you accept the premise, you're playing their game.
So the real goal here is, as critics say, using economics to promote politics and using people to promote unification.
You pull in the companies with market access, you pull in the people with jobs, you create dependence, and you hope the politics will eventually follow the money.
And this whole strategy is what leads to that really potent critique you hear from business owners who've been burned by this, the feed, trap, kill mechanism.
This is such a critical concept to understand
Right.
because it completely flips the narrative from benefits to a very sophisticated form of coercion. It's a 3-act play.
Let's break down Act 1, feed.
The feed phase is the hook. It's an offer that's almost impossible to refuse. It's so big, so generous, that it actively encourages you to become totally reliant on the mainland market.
And we see this really clearly in agriculture, don't we?
Oh, it's the perfect example. Let's say you're a pineapple farmer or you raise grouper. All of a sudden, the mainland starts placing these massive, consistent orders at great prices. Suddenly, like 90% of your exports are going to this one single buyer. The short-term profit is incredible. So what do? You invest, you expand, you hire more people.
Yeah.
You go all in.
You're being fed. You're fat and happy.
You're fat and happy, and now you are completely vulnerable. And that takes us to phase 2, trap.
This is where they start to take, not just give.
This is the extraction phase. It's especially true for the tech companies. The trap can be anything from local regulations that force you to set up a joint venture to these insane salary offers they use to poach your best engineers.
I've heard about this. Like, you have to build your R&D center in China, not back home.
Exactly. Or they bury tech transfer clauses deep inside contracts. If you don't agree, suddenly your business permits get delayed, or you get hit with a surprise tax audit. It's a squeeze.
And they just hire away your best people with salaries you can't possibly match.
Your core intellectual property is now either localized in their country, or it's walking out the door and working for a state-backed competitor. You're trapped.
Which leads, inevitably, to phase 3. Kill.
This is when the hammer comes down.
Yeah.
Once they've gotten what they want, your tech, your talent, or, more often, when a political event doesn't go their way, like an election, the trap snaps shut.
The benefits get turned off.
Instantly. And it's always disguised as something else. You'll see a sudden ban on your agricultural products because of, quarantine issues. They found a pest in a shipment.
But the timing is never a coincidence?
Never. It always lines up perfectly with a moment of political tension. It's a political punishment dressed up as a trade dispute, and it financially devastates those businesses that got hooked in the feed phase, and it sends a chilling message to everyone else.
And this whole process is what's driving this big trend we're seeing now, right? The great exodus.
It's a huge factor. For years, businesses were leaving because of rising labor costs or environmental rules.
Mm-hmm.
But now, the main drivers are almost entirely political.
It's political risk, it's data security, it's the fear of your IP getting stolen.
It's a toxic cocktail for any serious long-term investment. If your whole business can be shut down overnight for political reasons, then no amount of tax breaks is worth that risk.
So people are voting with their feet, moving production to Vietnam, to Mexico, anywhere else.
And that brings us back to that first question. Why not just do total economic war? Why this complicated game? It's a balancing act. They're trying to apply pressure without triggering these 3 massive backfires.
Okay, let's go over those again. Number 1 is they want to avoid forcing independence.
Right. If you go too hard, you create a backlash.
Yeah.
You make the idea of unification completely toxic and just strengthen the hand of politicians who want to move away from the mainland.
It would destroy their own long-term goal. Okay, number 2, self-inflicted damage.
This is the economic reality.
Mm-hmm.
They need a lot of the high-tech components that come from Taiwanese firms, especially in semiconductors. You can't just sanction the supply chain you depend on for your own tech industry to function.
You'd be shooting yourself in the foot. Or maybe the head.
A very critical economic foot, yeah. And finally, number 3 is international pressure.
The world is watching.
And a massive, overt economic blockade would draw a huge condemnation from the U.S., from Japan, from the European Union. You could see coordinated counter-sanctions against Beijing. The geopolitical cost would be enormous.
So what we're left with is this very delicate, very calculated strategy of selective pain and selective benefits. And that strategy only makes sense in this bigger global context, which brings us to part 2, and this alliance that's trying to rewrite all the rules.
Let's zoom out to that world stage. This alliance, the revisionist powers, or CRINC as some people call it, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea.
It's quite a lineup, and their common goal is pretty clear, right? They want to challenge what they see as a U.S.-dominated world.
The unipolar order. They feel the system that was set up after the Cold War is designed to keep them down, and they've formed this strategic convergence.
They don't have to like each other, they just have to dislike the current system more.
That's a great way to put it. They offer each other mutual support, economic, military, diplomatic, specifically to get around U.S. sanctions and to resist being isolated.
It's a way to create their own parallel system.
It is. And this alignment of authoritarian states is, as we said, not an accident. It's about regime survival. They see things like a free press or multi-party elections as a direct existential threat.
They're a virus that could infect their own populations and lead to demands for change.
So they need that external enemy tool. It is fundamental to how they maintain control.
It solves so many problems for them, doesn't it?
It really does. Your economy is failing. Blame U.S. sanctions. You need to rally the people. Talk about the threat from foreign interference.
And you need to justify cracking down on dissent at home.
Perfect excuse. You just label anyone who disagrees with you a foreign agent and say you're protecting national security. It's a playbook, and they all use it.
So let's talk about the key player in our hemisphere, Venezuela. It's become this crucial geopolitical bridgehead.
And its survival is almost entirely thanks to this alliance. The situation there is dire. I mean, the U.S. Department of Justice has formally indicted President Maduro and other top officials.
For what, specifically?
The charge is narco-terrorism. The accusation is that high-level members of the military are running a drug cartel known as the Cartel of the Suns.
So the allegation is that the state itself has merged with organized crime?
That's the core of the U.S. accusation. And facing these crippling sanctions, especially on their oil, the Maduro regime would have likely collapsed without its alliance lifeline.
And China is the biggest part of that lifeline.
Absolutely. They've been a massive creditor, providing hundreds of billions in loans, usually with oil as repayment. Even when repayment is tough, China's support keeps the regime financially afloat and gives it crucial political legitimacy on the world stage.
And Russia and Iran, they fill in the other gaps, right?
They do. Russia provides military hardware and training, things like advanced air defense systems. Iran provides the technical know-how to get around oil sanctions. When Venezuela's refineries were falling apart, Iran sent engineers and parts.
They're all helping each other bypass the global system.
It's a perfect example of this strategic convergence in action, and that leads to this really dark accusation that critics make, the fentanyl precursor connection.
This is a really serious claim. Let's be clear about the facts here.
Okay, the factual basis is this. A huge portion of the precursor chemicals needed to make fentanyl originates in China's chemical industry. That's widely acknowledged.
But those chemicals aren't shipped directly to the U.S.
No. The primary route is to Mexican cartels. The cartels then use those chemicals to manufacture the finished fentanyl, which is then trafficked into the United States, fueling the opioid crisis.
So the political argument from critics connects all these dots.
Right. The argument goes, if China is the main source of the ingredients and Venezuela is an alleged narco state and a key anti-U.S. ally, then this whole alliance starts to look like what they call a crime network.
The most extreme version of that argument is that it's a deliberate strategy to weaken the U.S.
That is the most cynical interpretation, yes. Beijing, for its part, says it's trying to crack down on the flow of these chemicals. But for critics, the connection remains a central part of their case against this anti-U.S. alliance.
It's this massive global instability, this rising risk that is pushing companies to rethink everything, which is the perfect pivot to our next section.
Exactly. This geopolitical risk is precisely what's driving that great exodus we talked about. And it's what makes Taiwan's unique role in the modern economy so incredibly important.
Okay, so let's make that pivot now to what gives Taiwan its real power in this global conflict. It's not just politics anymore. It's the technology that is literally building our future. We're talking about the AI age geopolitics.
This is where everything changes. Taiwan's importance is no longer just a historical debate. It's a hard, cold, technological reality. Because if you look at the supply chain for the entire AI revolution, Taiwan is what everyone calls a choke point.
A single point of failure.
A massive one.
Yeah.
All of this AI infrastructure, the large language models, the data centers, it all runs on these incredibly powerful specialized chips, GPUs, accelerators.
And the most advanced of those chips can only be made in a few places in the world.
Really, only one place at the top end. Taiwanese foundries, especially TSMC, they have a near monopoly on the most advanced manufacturing processes, the 3-nanometer, the 5-nanometer nodes. So if something happens there, it doesn't just hurt one company, it shuts down the entire global AI industry.
Okay, so for everyone listening, let's do a quick learner's guide to the AI supply chain. Let's rank it by who has the power and who makes the money.
Great idea. We can break it into tiers. So at the very top, you have Tier 1. The core compute chips, the AI chips themselves.
This is the brain of the operation.
This is the brain. This is where the highest profit margins are, the most advanced technology. The companies that design these chips, like NVIDIA, have a monopoly on the core architecture. They are the biggest bottleneck in the whole chain right now.
Okay, so that's Tier 1. What's next?
Next, let's call it Tier 2A, key components and systems. This is stuff like specialized cooling, power delivery, advanced packaging for the chips.
The stuff you absolutely need to make the brain work.
Exactly. And they're making a fortune right now because of what we can call mandatory upgrades. These new AI chips use an insane amount of power. Some are over 1,000 watts. You just can't cool them with air anymore.
So everyone is being forced to switch to liquid cooling.
Right. And that creates this guaranteed market. We're in a great construction era for data centers, and these Tier 2A companies have the specialized tech that everyone needs. Their profits are huge.
All right, what about Tier 2B?
Tier 2B would be the cloud service and software platforms. Think Amazon, Microsoft, Google. the big hyperscalers.
They need a ton of money to even play the game, right?
A colossal amount of money.
Yeah.
Their capital expenditure, their CapEx, is insane. They have to buy all those Tier 1 chips and build the data centers. But once they're at scale, their profits explode because the cost of adding one more software subscriber is almost zero. They control the data, the apps, the whole ecosystem.
So high risk, but massive potential reward. And that leaves the bottom tier.
Tier 3. Mass hardware manufacturing. These are the companies, mostly in Asia, that actually assemble the servers, the ODMs and OEMs.
They build the boxes.
They build the boxes. They have a ton of orders because the Tier D guys are in an arms race to build out their infrastructure. But it's a high-volume, low-margin business. They make up almost 90% of global shipments, but their slice of the profit pie is the smallest.
So let's drill down on one of those Tier 2A areas because it's a great example of this complexity, the liquid cooling bottleneck.
Yeah, this is fascinating because you'd think the big Tier 3 server assemblers would just start making their own cooling systems, right? But they can't.
Why not?
The tech barriers are just too high. It's not as simple as sticking a fan on something. First, you have the components. You need experts in fluid dynamics to design the cold plates that sit right on the chip and pull the heat away. It's complex engineering.
Okay.
Second, you need the systems. The whole thing is managed by a cooling distribution unit, a CDU. It's the brain of the cooling system, and it has to precisely manage the temperature, the flow rate, the pressure of the liquid for thousands of servers at once. It's incredibly complex systems integration.
And finally, the liquid itself.
The coolants. You can't just use water. I mean, think about the coolant in your car. It's a specialized chemical. For data centers, it has to be non-conductive, it can't corrode the parts, and it has to go through these super expensive certification processes.
So all that complexity means the big assemblers are stuck buying these critical parts from specialized Tier 2A suppliers.
And that reinforces the power of those niche tech companies, many of which are in Taiwan. And all of this high-tech focus, combined with the geopolitical risk, it's leading to a really clear trend.
Taiwan's decreasing economic dependency on China.
It's happening, and the data is pretty stark. Despite all those Weitao policies we started with, Taiwan's exports to China and Hong Kong are dropping significantly.
By how much?
Since the peak in 2020, reliance has fallen by something like 12 percentage points. It's down to around 31 or 32% now. In the world of national trade statistics, that is a massive shift in a very short time.
So what's driving that? What are the big reasons?
Well, number one is just supply chain restructuring. The U.S.-China tech competition has forced everyone to diversify. You just can't have your entire critical supply chain in one politically risky place anymore. People are friend-shoring or near-shoring.
Makes sense. What's number two?
It's the slowing Chinese economy. The double-digit growth days are over. Domestic demand is changing. It's just not as attractive an export market as it used to be. So businesses are naturally looking for growth elsewhere.
And the Taiwanese government has been actively pushing this too, right?
Absolutely. That's reason number three, Taiwanese strategy. Things like the new southbound policy have been really effective at helping businesses open up new markets in Southeast Asia, in India, and Australia. It's a very deliberate diversification effort.
And the last reason is kind of ironic.
It's the most ironic part. Reason four is risk aversion. The feed, trap, kill strategy has actually backfired. By using these selective sudden bans, Beijing has shown everyone how risky it is to be dependent on them.
So they basically taught the business community a very expensive lesson in risk management.
They did. Companies saw what happened to others and said, we need to get out before that happens to us. They proactively neutralized the trap.
So you have decreasing economic dependence, but increasing technological indispensability. What an incredible paradox.
It's an unbelievably complex picture.
Okay, wow. Let's try to wrap our heads around this huge global puzzle we've just laid out. We started with Beijing's Weitao policy.
And showed how it's really a political trap. It's this feed, trap, kill mechanism that's designed for unification, but it's starting to backfire.
Right. And then we connected that to the wider geopolitical game, this anti-U.S. alliance, these revisionist powers, including an accused narco state like Venezuela, all trying to create a new multipolar world order.
And then, this is the really interesting part, we established that Taiwan's value isn't just a political talking point anymore. It is a hard technological reality. It controls this choke point in advanced manufacturing for the entire global AI build-out.
We broke down the supply chain, we talked about liquid cooling, and we showed how, because of all this risk, Taiwan's economic reliance on the mainland is actually going down, not up.
So what does it all mean? Well, we've tried to present the facts and the critical analysis from an objective international perspective. We're connecting the dots between economics, alliances, and technology. We're just guides here, not endorsing any political view. We really want you to weigh the evidence for yourself.
At the end of the day, that authoritarian alliance, they want stability and control. They want a world of neat spheres of influence where nobody interferes in their business.
But the AI age is messy. It demands complexity, it demands decentralization, and because the supply chain is so incredibly specialized, it demands global cooperation, even between rivals.
And that leads us to the big provocative thought we want to leave you with today. If the entire future of the global economy, this whole AI revolution, is built on this one specific, complex, and incredibly fragile technological base in Taiwan, does the AI age itself fundamentally undermine the ability of any single power to dominate?
Whether it's the U.S. trying to hang on to a unipolar world or China trying to enforce its vision, is technological interdependence the real force that's pushing us toward a multipolar future, no matter what the politicians or the dictators want? Something to think about.
Thank you so much for joining us for this in-depth discussion.
We really appreciate you diving deep with us today.
Be sure to subscribe to Sip and Talk wherever you get your listening done. And you have to check out our old friend Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickytolife. They've got funny memes and all the latest travel vlogs. We'll see you next time.